Hello. Hi. Hello, how's everybody doing? Today is a beautiful, oops. Today is a beautiful day. Hello. Hi. Hello, Sumaya. Hello, Marianne. Hello, Ibitayo. Hello, OneNoJX. Hi. Hello, OG the Genius. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Can you drop an emoji? How's your day going? Just drop an emoji that reflects how your day is going. So I think here it's very snowy. So I'm going to put a snow emoji. Or however you're feeling, right? Just drop an emoji to tell me how your day is going. Yeah. Oh, someone said that Tekona is making her hair. I think she's done with that. So we should, let's jump right into it, right? Oh, it's freezing over. Tech corner is freezing. OG the genius is dancing. Yeah, I like that. Hello. Okay, let me add. I'm happy that there's a dancing emoji.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing? Someone said you're making your hair.
I was 2 hours ago. Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Good.
All right. So we don't waste time, yeah? It would be good to just jump right into it.
Sounds
Hello,
good.
everyone. So if you're just joining, there's a question mark box at the bottom right corner. If you have any questions, put it right there. But first of all, drop an emoji to say how you're feeling or how your environment is. So, and thank you once again for joining. So I will start. My name is Ayo, and I'm the founder of Tips and Joy. I share interview and career tips as well as tech insights. So I work as a Scrum Master and I also have experience working as a project manager. So I share my experience as well as mock interview responses because I struggled with that, right? So I try to share as much as I can. And I'll hand over now to Tech Corner um, to give us the Microsoft
Ah,
introduction. I'm just joking, yeah.
so, hi guys. I don't know if it's the morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, but I'm Hosanna. I'm the person behind the Tech Corner. So yeah, sorry, did you say
Yeah,
Ayo, right? Ayo, yes.
yeah.
Ayo said I am currently working at Microsoft as an Azure specialist, and then I post lots of content about kind of tech. I'm specifically in tech sales, so I post about that, but I have a background in computer science, so I post a little bit about that as well. So just try to mix it up. But yeah, looking forward to being here. Looking forward to answering any of your questions. Thank you so much, and thank you for being so patient with me as I had to reschedule from last week. But yeah, really looking forward to today.
Yeah, no problem. That's okay. Thank you. So, my first question is, how did you start from, did you study computer science? Was that your dream or you transitioned into it? Just a little bit background on how you started, yeah.
Sure, yes. So yes, I did study computer science at university, but it wasn't my dream to go into like tech or anything. I didn't really know what tech was up until kind of 2016. I kind of had an idea of what it was in regards to some of the applications I was using, the websites and stuff like that. Just obviously you knew tech was a thing, but I didn't think that I would go into it at all. So I did business for my undergraduate degree because I was actually going to do finance. So I was going to go into finance for my master's. So that was always the plan. And then after I did 3 years in business, I realized that I didn't want to do finance. I had done some internships. I was like, I'm not sure if I want to do kind of that area
Okay.
and things like that. So I was just not interested. So I decided to switch over to the School of Computer Science and did a master's in computing there for a year. And then that's how I started kind of my journey within the tech industry.
Oh, okay. So you actually went to school initially for finance?
Yes, yeah. So I did
Oh, wow.
business. Yeah, I specialized in finance and then I was going to do my master's in finance. Yeah.
Okay, wow. That's good. And coming out like graduating from uni, where was your uni? Was it also in the UK
Yeah.
or
Yes, it was. Yeah. So I studied at Cardiff University in the UK.
okay. and then getting a job. I think the reason why I'm asking these questions is well, many people, I don't know if it's the same for you, especially people from Nigeria, they're moving to the UK to start all over again. Many people have heard about the tech jobs, that they're good, they're fun, they pay well. So like how will you advise somebody that is just coming into that space?
Yeah, I guess if you're just starting over in regards to your journey, I guess there's two areas. If you're coming from somewhere like Nigeria, I think it's really important to just have everything in line. Like, you need to have the right skills, you need to have the right degree, you need to have references, you need to have your CV quite right, because you have to remember, not only are you competing with loads of people here in the UK, and in the UK we hire our citizens first, so they'll look for people who are citizens first, and if they can't find, then they'll hire anyone else. So you're competing with everyone in the UK, but then you're competing with like millions of people coming from Nigeria. So I think you have to be like really purposeful about what you want to do. You can't just be like, I want to work in tech and then book your flights and come over. No, you kind of have to be like, okay, is tech, what job, what industry, what company is it that I'm going after? What are they looking for? And be very like specific, and then try and find references, try and build a social media platform. I think it's a big fight to be starting a new career in a new country. And obviously you guys can't seek asylum, so it's slightly different journey to kind of people from other African countries again. So I think what you just have to be your best. And I know that Nigerians are very good at that anyway. So that would be definitely my biggest advice.
Okay. You said did you say building a social media platform?
No, it doesn't have to be a platform, but I think having a presence helps. So if you are, let's say LinkedIn would be probably the biggest one, right?
Okay.
If you're trying to come over from Nigeria and you know that in the next 2 years you want to come over to the UK, then get a LinkedIn, start posting about what you do, start posting about what you're interested in, because that's where the hiring managers are. And you never know, one post could become, I've seen people post something and it becomes viral.
Yeah.
And from that, they've got recruiters, they've got people coming going after them. So yeah, make sure that you kind of have your social media in regards to mainly LinkedIn in a good position as well.
Yeah. So so this is not, it's not just for Nigerians, for anybody
Anybody, exactly. Yeah. You're coming to the UK. Anybody, even if you are in the UK, LinkedIn is important as well.
Okay. So when you graduated from school, what was next? Did you try business at all, or you just, pivoted straight into tech?
Yeah. So I did an internship in the summer. It was just 3 months. I was always going to do my master's anyway, but I wanted to do an internship just to get a feel of what it was like to work in a business. And yeah, it wasn't for me. The area that I went into, it was still sales, I think, but it wasn't. It was more kind of just understanding business and things like that. And I realized that I just wasn't. I needed to become very like specific about what I wanted to do. I was kind of just saying finance because my dad works in finance, so it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I did, after those 3 months, I was like, I really need to think about what I actually going to do with my life. And then that was when I found my master's in computer science, and then went and did that instead.
Okay. So I wanted to ask also as regards a place to, I don't know if some places are more, if there are more opportunities in some places than others. So for example, here in Canada, many people want to come to, now that we have remote roles, it doesn't really work that way anymore. But originally, many people will want to come to, Ontario because there are many opportunities in Toronto and things like that. And then obviously you are considering like an immigrant, right? You also want a place that is affordable to start your life. So do you have any advice or tips on that?
Yeah, I think for kind of moving from externally to coming into Europe and tech specifically, I would say Dublin is probably the place where you should go. Like, a lot of people want to come to London, but again, you have to remember there are millions of people already in London. You're all competing to be here. There's obviously the tech companies here, but London is very expensive, right? It's like rent here now is on average £1,000
Wow.
just to be here, just to rent, and that's for your sharing, right? So it's really expensive to be here. Whereas Dublin, which is outside of the UK, but it's in Europe, is like the tech hub of Europe. Really, it's becoming that place. Like, lots of companies, are in Dublin. So Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Oracle. You think of all the big tech companies, they are in Dublin, and they offer a lot of like telesales, digital roles, and a lot of early in career people are in Dublin. So a lot of people who are from London might move to Dublin for early in career just so they can get their foot into the door. So just so they can get a job at Google, they move to Dublin, and then they move back once they have experience, like 2 years of experience, because more experienced people work in London than they do in Dublin. So, and also I think the visa process for Dublin is a lot easier. Like university is a lot cheaper, like much cheaper. I know a lot of people leave the UK to go to Dublin to do medical school, and then again they move back. So I would say Dublin is probably a better choice than London because, and Dublin actually has a huge Nigerian community if you are Nigerian, but also other areas as well.
Someone asked how difficult is it to get the work permit in Dublin? Well,
I wouldn't know. I don't know how difficult, but I know that a lot of people have gone to Dublin. Like if you watch just YouTube, I watch a lot of YouTube videos of people kind of moving from Nigeria to Dublin. I've actually spoken to someone who did it, and I think in Dublin you have to live in Dublin for like 5 years before you can get citizenship. But once you have citizenship, it's European citizenship, so that helps be around everywhere. Whereas in the UK and London, it can take years, like 20 years.
Wow. Okay. All right. So just taking it back to, you talked about, starting out in finance, and then you realized, you didn't like that. What was the next thing?
So after that, I was kind of thinking, okay, so what am I going to do? So then I was looking at master's degrees to complete, because like I said, I was always going to do one. Everyone in my family have one. So I was kind of discussing with my family, like, oh, what should I do? And then my university actually gave the option. I think it was the first year or the second year of this new course that was like, okay, if you want to learn how to code, you want to get like a good foundation in technology, computer science, you can move from the School of Business, the School of Computer Science, and then complete another degree there. It'll be a master's degree. You can do a internship with it as well if you'd like. And once I discovered that, I literally just searching for degrees online.
All right.
I kind of spoke to my family about it, and it was actually, I think it was my dad that was like, oh, it's fine, like leave finance. Finance is not going anywhere. Tech is new, like try this out. And if you don't like it, you can always come back to finance or try and figure out something else. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up making the transition over.
Okay. And then finishing school, how was it easy getting a tech role, or where did you start from?
Yeah, so after I finished, I did my master's for a year. It's definitely not easy. I did some job applications where obviously you have like coding interviews, and that it really depends on the tech role that you're going into. But yeah, you might have like multiple interviews, coding exercises, and then like normal interviews. And I think I started applying. I was very lucky as well because I started applying quite early, and that's another. Kind of have to know when to apply. I think I started applying for jobs in September, and Microsoft opened its grad program in October, and I by like November. It was like a very fast like process, so I didn't have to spend too much time applying for tech companies. But in the meantime, I was applying for loads of other companies as well, like Procter and Gamble or like HP, like any of the big companies that you were thinking of. I was applying for. So yeah, it's tough.
So what would you say like prepared you or made you stand out, for getting, not everybody gets the Microsoft job, right? So what do you think, after spending years there, if you look back, what would you say made you stand out?
So I think a few things. During the application process, I was very prepared. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people actually surprisingly don't do. I think people think that the application process for one company will be the same for another. It's not. So I spent a lot of time not only understanding Microsoft as like a tech company, but understanding Microsoft's culture, its mission, like what are they passionate about? What is like the Microsoft way? And a lot of companies have that, and especially tech. like tech is very culture focused.
Yeah.
So that's why you'll hear people say they're like a Nugla or an Amazonian and a
Okay.
micro. Like they have like little names for people who
Yeah.
work in the company because it is an indication of the culture in which you work in. So number one, be prepared for more than just like the tech thing. That was like one thing that I did to stand out. And then I think I brought like a lot of myself to the application process. Things that I think they asked me about, like the future of technology. And I think I was like, oh, like the future is in Africa. Like that's where the future is. Like we have a huge workforce. We're young, like we're hungry, like there's still lots of money to be made there. So I answered questions very openly and honestly. So I think that's important. But the only way you can do that is if you really understand what the company is trying to achieve.
Sure.
So yeah, so it's all about being prepared, but not being like a copycat of what recruiters see all the time.
Oh, okay.
So relating your own personal experiences to the questions you're being asked at the interview, I think is what made me stand out a lot.
All right, that's really good. So I wanted to also ask about, I know you started doing tech sales, right? How did you get into that? Is that what you started with from the get-go, or you started with something else and then you moved to tech sales?
Yeah, no, I went straight into tech sales when I started at Microsoft. That was what the program was for. But I was in a different role. So before I was a technology strategist, which is essentially helping customers to build their strategy and then helping them to like execute it. So very customer facing, very less. So it was more general. So loads of technologies. So I did that for 2 years, 2.5 years. And then I moved into this role where it's very much solution focused and more technology focused as a specialist. That's what I do. So yeah, started at tech sales, but moving different roles.
Okay. All right. So if I wanted to get into tech sales, yes, I'm selling technology to, some clients. That means you need to have like in-depth knowledge of technology, right?
Yeah.
So will I need any coding experience, or like how can I navigate that journey?
Yeah, definitely. So you don't need coding experience to work in tech sales. Plenty of people don't. People who do, obviously it does help because you understand the back end of the solution that is being sold, and also you are not afraid of technology. I think that's the only thing having a technical degree helps you. Like I go into conversations not really afraid because I have a technical background. So I'm just not scared, even though it's not something that I know. I'm comfortable around technology, so that helps. But you definitely don't need one. I work with people who have come from, business, law, anthropology, different. Psychology is a popular one, which obviously makes sense because you're working with people every day. So I would say, in regards to, I guess the question is skills, right? In regards to skills, you don't need coding. However, you do need an ability to learn technology. You need to be comfortable with change. You need to be comfortable with not being in the same environment all the time, because you're speaking to different customers and they've got different solutions and they have different requirements. Obviously, you need both communication, but also you need to be able to like build a relationship with your customer, because it's not like traditional sales. It's not like, oh, I've got this phone, let me sell it to you, and then you just take it.
Okay.
A lot has to happen before someone can, because you're selling to an enterprise, right? I'm not selling to a person. So in order for that enterprise to buy the technology, loads of people have to say yes, right? The CIO, the CFO, the CEO, then the heads of IT, the architects, like lots of people have to be on board with the decision. So that can take a lot of communication. You can present a few times, you can answer lots of questions. So it's not really about knowing everything, but being able to communicate what you know properly and then build that relationship with the customer. And again, not from like a sales, like friendly, like ha ha ha, like that type of thing, relationship, but more from like a trusted advisor.
Okay.
Like you trust what I say, right? And influencing, like if I tell you tomorrow you have got to go buy the new iPhone, you can trust what I'm saying is like the right thing to do. So those are really important skills. Like knowing the technology is really good, but some of the best tech sales people I know are just very influential really good with people. So they're able to sell really well, even with not the deepest level of knowledge.
Okay. Do you usually have like a target? Does it work that way or yeah?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's absolutely, you have a target, and everybody's target is very different. Like when it comes to the spectrum of tech sales people, it varies. So it starts with like the most salespeople at the beginning, and they do all the customer stuff, and they don't really have deep technical knowledge, all the way to like architects on the other end, and they help with the sales because they demo, they draw architecture, they answer really deep questions. So it will just depend. But the more customer facing you are, the bigger your target is, because you're considered more salesy. The more technical you become, the smaller the target is because you're focused on the technology. However, the more salesy you are, the more money you make, right? You have more potential to earn more, because that's what it's bigger risk, bigger reward.
Yeah.
In that sense. So yes, we all have targets.
Okay. Someone asked what kind of clients you deal with, corporate, individual, or both. I think you mentioned corporate, but go ahead.
Yeah, only corporations. So it's B2B all the time. And there's different industries. So you can be in retail and selling to ASOS or Nike, or you can be in transportation, selling to British Airways. You can be in education, selling to Oxford University. It's just all corporations.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I also wanted to, because like honestly, from what I hear, and I mean, I don't hear so much about like the UK, but from what I've seen, when people get there, the first thing that comes to their mind is having I think they call it care role, and it just seems like starting a career in tech is just so far-fetched. Now I can talk about Canada, but since you live there, do you think I mean, almost impossible getting into tech without having that tech background in the UK, or is it just the fear that limits people from trying?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's impossible. It's definitely not impossible. It's definitely not far-fetched. Like, people move around and start careers every day, all the time. And you have to remember, in the UK, again, I'm sure it's similar globally, we have a huge skills gap, right? There are not enough people who have technical skills in the UK, to the point where the government is giving out free boot camps to train people, to entice them to come into the industry, because there's not enough people who are able to maintain the organization from a technical perspective, build new things, sell technology, Scrum Master. We don't have enough people to do those roles, and it's going to become a generational problem over the years.
Sure.
So I think it's definitely not far-fetched, it's definitely not impossible, but it's definitely not easy, and not because of the industry, but also because of the economy where we are at the moment. That I think external factors are probably playing a much bigger part than just the industry itself. But it's not impossible, but it could take you some time for sure.
All right. Thanks for sharing. Someone said, thank you for coming on live. How do I get started if I wanted to get into tech sales? So go ahead. Thank you.
So no worries. So with tech sales, I think getting started, it depends where you are at the moment. Obviously, like if you're a brand new grad, then you can apply for like graduate jobs and graduate schemes. There are plenty of those in the UK and even across just like globally. Obviously, all the big tech companies hire grads. But if you are kind of mid-career, late career, and thinking about transitioning, I would say you probably want to go into like entry-level roles. So business development representative and sales development representatives. These are very salesy, new business. But if you do that for a tech company, that is the best way for you to start. And then you can kind of transition into more senior tech sales roles where you don't have to do as much like calling people and stuff like that. And just kind of sitting back as well.
Okay. But like for someone that is new, like your resume, right?
Yeah.
You really don't have that much experience. Are there any like tech programs or things? What do you advise for people? Yeah.
So when it comes to tech sales, there isn't really boot camps for tech sales. And I know that some people say that they are, but I don't know any ones which I've ever heard anyone actually go through and then finish and have a job. There may be ones, but because sales is something that you learn as you go along. So my focus would be try and be able to show the company that, one, you can learn the technology. So get an understanding of the technology you want to sell. So doing stuff like certifications really help, because it shows that, okay, they have some understanding of, let's say, Azure, right? They know it. And then really on your resume, really bringing to light any customer facing experience that you've ever had. So whether you've worked in support, any other ones that you've done in the past, that should be what's focused on your resume, and then aligning that to the business and development representative, sales development representative roles. Those are very entry-level roles, and they have a high turnover. That's why I said it's a good place to start. You know, you go in, you could work there for a year and then start transitioning to other roles as well. But if you don't have any tech sales experience, focus on the customer facing experience that you've got in the UK.
Okay. Before I ask this question, someone I know of I think they call it software apprentice, because I have some colleagues in the UK, right? How does that program work? Because I think it's just in the UK. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, so apprenticeships is what you're talking about. Yeah, so apprenticeships are essentially a way of training you without having to do a degree. So yeah, they're very popular in the UK. I know they're coming up in the US, but in the UK, you don't have to go to university. You can take an apprenticeship. And what that means is that you will work at the company, and they'll pay you, but you also have to study at the same time. So you can do different courses. You can also do a degree, but the difference is that the company will pick that degree and they'll make you do that specific one, and they'll pay for it for you while you work. You will not get paid as much as like a grad or something, but it's a good place to start if you don't want to go to university. They're very popular here. I have apprentices that I've worked with at Microsoft as well.
Okay, all right. Someone said I'm in the UK doing my MSc, taking personal courses on data science. How will you advise me to land a job in the field?
Is that sorry, I'm going up there. I can see I'm in the UK doing an MSc. I wonder, well, I guess it depends on what MSc they're doing. Is it in data? If it is, then once you graduate, I would have just applied for any graduate data science roles or any graduate tech jobs. So there are specific platforms for graduate jobs. So things like Target Jobs, Milkround, there are specific platforms just for grad jobs, or Indeed even does grad jobs. But that's the good thing about the UK. If you have a degree, there is a section of jobs just for you to focus on, not for anyone else to apply for. So I always say, if you have a degree, then go for it. Oh yeah, he has a degree in economics. Yeah. So I don't know if it's a he or she. If you want to go into data science, then yeah, once you graduate, start looking at kind of data science graduate jobs.
Okay. In the question box we have, please, do you have more information about the government-sponsored boot camps in the UK?
Yeah, definitely. If you just type in government free skills bootcamp into Google, it'll be the first search. And then you can look through there'll be a massive list. I think there's like hundreds of them, of different companies offering boot camps. Some are eligible to everybody. So I can apply for it. You can apply for it. Anybody who has a job can apply for it. Some are only for unemployed people. And then some are only for unemployed people under the age of 19 or something like that. There's a few different sections. So if you're unemployed, you'll be eligible. If you're employed, there's just different ones for different types of people in different situations. But literally just type in government free skills bootcamp into Google and it'll come up.
All right. So I just want, for people that just joined, if you have any questions, please put it in the bottom right corner so that we don't miss it. Someone asked a question, what's the best year to get your first software engineering role, especially if you're transitioning from a non-tech role?
Best way, I think she's commented, but what's the best way? Yeah, but to get your first software engineering role, especially if you transition from a non-tech role, I believe I've learned enough to deliver value. Okay, well, I think if you're someone who you feel like you've learned enough to actually become a software engineer, I would say you need to have some projects. That's the best way to show that you can deliver value. You need to show us that you can build a website. Can you build a couple of games? Can you build projects? And you don't have to do it with a specific company. You can literally just ask your friend, like, can I build something for your company? Or if you don't have anyone that you can do it for, just build one for yourself. Like I remember I built a hair company. It's the worst website ever. Like literally, I cringe looking back at it. It's hideous. But it was like the first website that I had built myself.
Okay.
And you could go on there, you could buy things. And yeah, so if you have a portfolio of projects, that's the best way to show a company that you can have value. So literally have software engineer at whatever company it is, and then just type the activities that you've done, build websites for this with full functionality of this using this programming language. So I think that's really the best way to show that you can have value.
Okay. What mistakes do you see that people commonly make, especially when they probably just moved to the US, or they're trying to get in the UK, or they're trying to get a job in the UK?
I think probably the biggest mistake, which I think everybody makes, is again the lack of preparation and underestimating how hard it's going to be able to do it. Especially like we said, if you're transitioning from somewhere outside the UK, you are literally competing with people because they have citizenship here. So you really have to be prepared. Like every answer, that saying you got to work twice as hard to get half of what they have is literally true. Like, wow. So okay, make sure that you are really ready, understand the culture of the UK as well, how they hire, how you come across in interviews. Again, culture comes back to it, because I think it's tough when you are coming from a different country, because you might interview very different.
Yeah.
So spend some time. Like I've worked, like I did like a summer in a recruitment company years ago when I was still in school. And part of that, I had to interview people before the company interviewed them.
Okay.
Yeah, and some people, they just like, they interview very like yes, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very like stiff, very like polite, which is good to be polite, but no charisma. Again, it's like understanding how to interview is really important.
True. I agree. Someone said back in college, after 10 years of gap, let me show up here. No work experience. How can I elevate my chances? I studied applied computer science.
Oh, okay, so you've already have a degree. Again, if you have no work experience, I would say just focus on creating your own work experience. If you can't work for a company, build your own projects, build your own portfolios, try and see if you can like build a website, build something, and then at least that can be counted as work experience. I would also say, if you can, try and go to like hackathons. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, but you can go build something as a group, win prizes, have it on your CV. I think that's really the best way to go. Try and find non-traditional work experience routes as well.
Okay, yeah. So for my own personal experience, I would say sometimes, like, I've worked in the US and I now work with people in the UK, and I think there's like a different, when you mentioned the culture shock, I think it's quite different. Like even interviewing for the company, I was all bubbly and chatty and all of them, but I found out that they were very straight to the point.
Okay.
But like after joining the company, they said they liked the way I asked them questions and things like that. But when I'm interviewing the US company, I'm very chatty. They are also chatty.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a different vibe, right? So sometimes, like during that interview, I was like, am I talking too much? Or am I, sometimes you don't know how to. So what would you say, like some tips? For example, now I live in Canada and I want to move to the UK. I don't know. Should I carry my person there? Or I have to be, sometimes I feel like, maybe you have to be straight to the point. Don't be too bubbly, just,
I think definitely. I think like Americans and Canadians are definitely much friendlier, much open. So they talk a lot more, and they're just like much more upbeat people, which I think is great. But British people are quite concise, very reserved and straight, kind of more to the point. Not as straight as like Germans and other people in Europe, but I think we're more to the point than Americans and Canadians can be sometimes. So that's definitely a culture point. I think if you're going to interview, definitely be open and friendly, but try and get to the point faster, right? And don't be curt, but don't be like, and then I did this, and then like if they're asking you like, tell me about yourself, don't tell me like, like 3 years of like, and then I did, and then it's just be like, stick to one, and ask a few questions, be interested. And I think the interviewing process in the UK is very much like they interview you and then you ask questions.
Yeah.
So when they're interviewing you, try to get to your point, try to get all the good stuff in, and then wait after. Then you do your questions. Don't try and like muddle it in the middle and then confuse them and then do that. So little points like that are really important. But after, yeah, I find that as well, actually, you're right. When you're interviewing in the UK, is up until they're, oh, okay, do you have any questions? You're very much like, focus on those points.
Yeah.
And after that point, you can then bring all your personality and just be, talk as much as you want, basically. But it's important to know.
Okay. Need he do be, sorry, I can't find your question. If you can add it to the question box so that I don't miss it, or you can type it again, I'll look out for it. Someone said, is the summer internship meant only for people whose degree comes with summer internships, or just anybody can apply for a summer internship?
Yeah, anybody can apply for a summer internship. It doesn't have to be one of those 4-year internship degrees. Anybody that's in their second year of university, just to be precise.
All right. Now I want to ask you a personal question. So if you had the opportunity to, I don't know, maybe work for Microsoft in the US or in another country, do you think it's more attractive there, or what's your opinion?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it's a topic of conversation that we're all having all the time in the UK. And my husband and I are always thinking about whether or not we should move somewhere else. I think it's a few things that I think needs to be considered. Like in the US, obviously you get paid a heck of a lot more than you do in the UK. There's about a 40% pay difference in the UK. However, the working culture is much tougher in the US than it is in the UK. Like in the UK, if you finish work at 5:30, that's that. Like there's no one's gonna look at you funny, or there's only a few industries like finance, investment banking, and law that maybe people work crazy hours, but most of the time 5:30 is 5:30, right? Everyone's going home. I think the UK is more family focused. I think the benefits can be a lot better sometimes as well. Obviously, we have more annual leave, we have more maternity pay, we have free healthcare. But in the US, they've got more money and they've got more opportunities for tech, right? Because the bigger tech companies there, all the headquarters are there and things like that. So I don't know if I can pick one or the other yet, but I would say if you are starting off, you're going to probably have more opportunities in the US, but you're going to be more comfortable in the UK, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay, that's good. So I think her question is, I exceeded my presentation time from 5 to maybe 10 minutes. Then they asked me questions hurriedly. I think she's, I don't know. So, yeah, if you can add more to that, maybe that would be helpful. And then someone said more about hackathons, please. Like,
yeah. So honestly, you can just, I guess, Google what hackathons are available. But hackathons are essentially, a hack is a group of people trying to solve a problem. That's what it is. You know, when you're like the hack, that's essentially what it is. And when you sign up to hackathons, they will give you a challenge most of the time. So it can be a very technical one, like something, I don't know, can you build an application for recycling globally? Something like that. And then you have a day or 2 or 3 days with your team to figure out this solution. And that's how it works. It doesn't, sometimes some hackathons are not even technical, but some are, some aren't. I've been to like a DevOps one, and then you have to do all the challenges. Essentially you spend 2 or 3 days trying to solve this problem, and then at the end they do prizes and things like that, which is good.
Okay, so I think this person had a presentation, went from 5 to 10 minutes, and then they asked her questions hurriedly, and I'm yet to receive any selected or not. But what could I have done better? Maybe answer the questions first. Oh, but go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so I guess from what I'm hearing is that you overran. She overran on her presentation. Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that's probably the only thing you could have done better, is probably stick to timings. Like when you're given a presentation, they're not really testing you that much on. They're not always testing you that much on what you're presenting. They're testing you on your presentation skills, right? what you're presenting is important because they'll ask you questions about it later. So make sure you know. But 50% of that is also how you're presenting, right? If you're coming to be a customer facing role and I've given you 30 minutes as a customer to present and it's taking you 45 minutes, that's cutting into my time. So that's something that I would definitely, if you're in a job application process, you have a presentation, try and stick to the time that you've been allocated for it. If they said 10 minutes, stick to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, stick to 15 minutes. So that's probably the only thing. If you haven't heard feedback though, go back and ask for it. You don't have to wait 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks if they haven't. Give it a week, message them. Give it another week, message them, and just ask the question. That's all.
All right. So, okay. Now that you said that, before I ask this question, sometimes I feel like, I don't know if it's me overthinking it or like when I ask, maybe I've done an interview and I ask, I almost always get a no in response. Like sometimes I feel like I should just wait for them to reach out to me, or maybe it's just me, you know.
Yeah, no, it does feel like that, but no, seriously, if they wanted you, they would have reached sooner. So it's fine. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it's the process, sometimes it's other things, but it's important to ask people. I think always ask for it. Take it because it'll help you for the next one.
Okay. So do you feel like it's another question, do you feel like a bootcamp education holds up in the tech industry, or is someone better off getting a master's?
Yeah, so I'm going to say you're 100% more likely to get a job with a master's, because bootcamps are still new. They're still relatively new, and companies are now starting, especially in the US. In the UK, it's very different. In the UK, they're still very new. People are still getting to know them, and unless that bootcamp is connected to like other companies, which a lot of the good ones are, you might struggle with just kind of, depend also the length of the bootcamp. The bootcamp, if the bootcamp is only kind of 2 months, it might not be quite enough. Companies might not know what it is. But whereas if you have a master's, they see you as a graduate.
Okay.
Like, so they see you as like, okay, we can fit this person into this role because they've got, a year experience in their degree. But I would also say the good thing about doing a bootcamp is that you will probably be paid higher if you go into a normal role. You don't go into a graduate job role. You just do your bootcamp and then you apply for a normal junior role. So yeah, pros and cons, but I would say at the moment, degree is still probably the most traditional route, but things are 100% changing. If you're unable to do a degree, you don't want to do a degree, it's too expensive, definitely do a bootcamp, but do the right one. Find one with reviews and stuff like that. Sorry, it's getting dark in here, but I hope you can still see me.
Yeah, I can still see you, no problem. Do you have some boot camps? Do you know anyone off the top of your head that you think like many people have done and it seems to be good?
Yeah, so one that I know, actually 2 people I've finished and gotten through is General Assembly. So I've actually spoken to those people. I think one was UX design.
Sorry, I can't hear you again.
Sorry, am I back? Sorry.
Yes, you're back.
And so I was saying that I think it was General Assembly was the one. General Assembly, I've seen 2 people. I've known 2 people actively finish, then get a job out of it. I think it was for UX design. And they do loads of them. They do software engineering, they do data science, they do project management, they do lots of them. And then there's also, if you're in the UK, there's Sky. Sky does a bootcamp for women specifically. As well. So, Makers Academy. If you're in the UK, I have a few. Makers Academy is another one as well.
All right. I think we'll be rounding up soon. Does anybody have any other questions? If you have any questions, this is an opportunity for you to ask those.
Let me turn the light on just as it gets. Sorry, it gets really dark.
Yeah.
Okay. Just so you can see me a little bit better. Yeah, it's even though it's just 4 p.m.
I think it's the winter season. So someone said, so certifications give you an edge in job applications, or is it just useful for learning purposes? Yeah.
So I think it really depends where you are and what job you're applying for. I would say treat them as learning purposes first. That's what their primary focus is learning purposes. And then once you are starting to apply for jobs, definitely try and leverage them when you are talking and interviewing and things like that. I would definitely wouldn't say certifications are going to get you a job, but I would say if you're applying for a job that usually requires certifications, it definitely helps to have that certification on your resume. So someone who's if a company is interviewing two people, right, and they're for my job, they're both very good, they've got the same experience, but the person who already has their certification, which you have to do when you come into Microsoft, is probably going to get hired, because that's one less thing for the company to think about. So if there are jobs which is like, yes, they definitely need certification, then do them.
Okay. Someone said, what are the basic things that one should know before joining as a fresher in a MNC? Any idea what that is?
No, no idea.
All right. So if you're going into software engineering, which certifications are good to have alongside?
Software engineering, you don't necessarily need certifications, but cloud certifications would be good, because cloud is where it's going in the future, right? Like everybody, my sister's a software engineer and she does Azure, and a few software engineers will do AWS and things like that. So the cloud ones are the ones which are good to go alongside, but you don't necessarily need them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're rounding up now. I just wanted to ask for one advice you would give anybody starting out in the UK or starting out a tech career. I think those are two questions actually.
No, that's fine. I can take both of them. So starting out in the UK, I would say, like what I've said, try and make connections with people, try and learn about kind of how the UK operates, look at startups, like just try and think of all the options that you have. And if you're coming here to study, I know you have a very short period of time after your visa. I think it's like 2 years or something. Yeah. So, 2 years they've extended that now. So 2 years is a long time for you to kind of go out there, go to hackathons, go to networking events, reach out to people, speak at places, do everything that you can to just like have a lot of things on your resume that makes you stand out. So that's one thing for the UK. And then starting out in tech, I think try and be like purposeful and try and focus on like what you actually see yourself doing in the future. It's very confusing when everybody's talking about the tech industry and there's so many roles, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what people forget. They hear tech and they think it's like 4 roles and maybe you can pick out them, but there's like hundreds of roles and they all require different skills. So really think about, what do you actually want to do? What realistically can you learn as well? Because you can say, oh, I really want to be a software engineer. But if you realistically, you can't learn a programming language, or you don't want to, or you don't find it interesting, then let go of software engineering. Like find something else that you can do. Maybe it's data science, maybe it's sales, maybe it's something else. So make sure I think that's really important. Like be purposeful. And then once you kind of know what you're doing, just like do that triangle thing that I'm always talking about. Just keep going deeper and deeper. If you know the industry, then know the role. If you know the role, then know what programming, like what skill you need. And if you know this, like keep going like that, and just be purposeful about the decisions that you're making, because you will end up doing one course on UX design, one course on project management, one course on sales. You'll spend a lot of money doing that.
I think I always say that. I always say that as well. Like so I think it's after reviewing or researching on different courses, different roles, then narrow down to one or two. I say start with one certification and maybe do something related. So maybe you can do a project manager and maybe a Scrum master, just to have, but instead of doing one in Azure, one in C#, one in, you're just going to get confused and tired. Yeah.
You're going to hate it.
Exactly.
And you're not going to have the right skills anyway, right? Very few people need a Scrum master certification, but also UX design one. Like they're not two things that are related.
Yeah, true. I think the question the person was asking, what are the basic things that one should know before joining as a fresher in a multinational company?
Okay. I guess basic things would be understand the structure of the company, understand the culture of the company, understand the mission of the company, understand who is your like lead, but not your manager, who is like your manager's boss in that company. Understand the future of that company, meet everyone in your team, and just generally understand how to navigate the company. Like multinational companies, like big ones, are very hard to navigate. They're very big. There's lots of expectations. So understand what's required to move forward, like what do I need to get promoted, like what's important, what does the company value the most. I think that would be the thing that I spend most of my time doing if I was a fresher.
Okay. Someone said, as a professional with a background in finance and audits, please, what are the requirements to actively and intentionally pivot into tech?
Okay. I would say, first of all, I guess you figure out where in tech you want to go. Obviously, if you have a finance background, you can look at fintech. That's huge, it's booming. The likes of Monzo, Revolut are growing. All of those pay, Stripe, PayPal. If you're a software engineer or a technical person in one of those companies, that would obviously make sense if you have finance background. But if you don't want to go into fintech, then you need to figure out where else in tech you want to do. What are your other skills that you have, or what are the skills that you're willing to learn in order for you to go into that? So what is always the first question, like what do I want to do?
All right. When someone said something about recommendations for certificates when starting off, but I think it kind of you kind of answered that question, right? Knowing what you want to do at first, and then you can work on the certifications. All right, I think that's it. What certifications would a data analyst require? I think
so there's lots of like data certifications from all the big tech companies that you could look at. So those are related to like data in the cloud, so data analytics within the cloud. So I can't remember them, but if you just type in data analytics, AWS, or data analytics, Azure, or data analytics, GCP, I think those are good places to go because most companies are migrating all of their data into a cloud data warehouse or a data lake anyway. So all the analytics teams will have to work like with cloud services. So I think a cloud certification is really good, but I'm obviously a cloud specialist, so I'm going to say that. But good to also do other research into other ones.
Okay. So obviously everybody knows about the massive layoffs that's going on right now. How can you advise, or what steps even are you taking to kind of hopefully not get laid off? Or for example, maybe I'm new, I've been hearing about tech and I really like it, I want that, but then I start hearing about layoffs. I'm like, I haven't even joined. And so any advice?
So I guess with the layoffs, that first things first, I think just to remember is that this isn't the first time and this isn't the last time there'll be layoffs. Like this isn't, I am like quite unsurprised. This is my first round of layoffs in my 4 years. This is the second round of layoffs that I've been through in my career. So I kind of know the process. I understand it. The last time wasn't as big, but obviously this one is a global one. And I guess the second thing to remember is that layoffs are more an indication of the economy rather than the industry. I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, I think then does that mean that tech is over? And it's like, absolutely not, right? Because in that time that there have been announcements about the layoffs, a week later, companies are announcing that they're investing billions into different areas, right? Because it's growing. I will be concerned if they start laying off loads of salespeople. Then you'll know, because you'll be like, oh damn, then they're not making any money. So that's when you know. So I think that's the first thing to remember, that layoffs are part of the economy and the process, and there will always be them. I think we won't ever go through a period where we won't have them. Secondly, I think is remembering, and also when you're thinking about your career, if you're a starter, strategically look at the, I guess, areas where skills are for, I guess, the future. But I even say that, but it's like you just don't know. And that's the if I'm being honest, you honestly don't know. I could tell you to learn all about, AI. I could tell you that software engineering is like the area, but then loads of software engineers were laid off, but so were marketing, but so were HR, right? Like it's a difficult one to know, to be able to keep yourself going, but always just update your skills. also, even though I've been at the same company my whole career so far, a lot of people will tell you move around, right? Don't get comfortable, go and work somewhere else, build new skills, keep moving, and then also know when to move, right? If you're new, then just try and stay where you are, and if you are thinking about moving, think about whether or not this is the right time, right? Because a lot of the time is FILO, first in, first out, FIFO, whatever, first in, first out.
Yeah.
As well. So yeah, sorry, I don't really have a straight answer for that.
No,
but
no, no.
It's
fine. I don't think anybody has a straight
one of
answer for that.
those
To be
things.
honest. Yeah. So this question is actually from me. So if I, for example, do you have any tips on, like, I'm used to working in the US or in Canada and in another country, and then I moved to the UK. What would you say I should watch out for? Because there's some things people just move there, and for example, we talked about being chatty, right? Being overly chatty, and then people are silently not liking you, but you don't even know.
You don't know.
And for you, having worked with, like, I'm sure you have some team members, or you have worked with people outside of the country, and then you're like, this won't be acceptable, if the person was in this country. So any things like that for people to watch out?
Yeah, so I would probably say with the UK, there's a very big culture around, well, depending on the company you're with, but because I work for an American company, so it's slightly different. But British companies where there's British people within teams in the UK going into the office, there's a big culture on socializing. So if you are someone who are starting in a team and they all go into the office and they're always, doing stuff together, the expectation is that you should also be there, right? You need to show your face. You need to be out with people, whether it's going to a restaurant or to the pub or what to lunch, whatever. That would be my first thing. British people are very big on like socials and being around each other. I would then say try not to be, and I work on this as well, like British people are very big on like small talk. So that's what we talk. So you go into a call, but it's not lots of talking, but it's just like, oh, like, how are you? Like, the weather. British people love talking about the weather. It's just like, oh, the weather's really bad this weekend. What did you do this? And then that's it. Then go into it. Maybe 3 questions, then go into it. And then, I think the conciseness, working with, like people, oh God, it's like, wrap up.
Get to the end, please.
Yeah, get to the end, please. You're not getting to the end. But then also, British people aren't always that direct. They don't like it when people are like, no. You have to be like, oh, maybe this wouldn't be the best idea. Let's think about it in a different way, basically.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know why the questions keep coming, but we have to wrap up now. Last one. This says, because I'm also interested, and I know people always ask me this question as well. What are the top tech roles? Like, what do you recommend for a beginner? Let's say I've researched and I like a couple. Like, what do you personally, just your personal recommendation?
Yes, so I would say as a beginner, there's 2 buckets you can fall into. So number one, I would say one of them would be the technical bucket. So being a software engineer, a software developer, or a data scientist is a great place to start, right? Because data is the future and everyone's talking about data and security, those 2 areas. Everyone's talking about data and security. Those are like the things at the moment. So look for that. And then obviously software engineering is a foundation for many roles. So it's really good to have that technical background, right? Because it's going to help you with all the roles. As I said earlier, you'll just be more comfortable going into different areas, and you'll learn to learn as well. As a software engineer, you're always learning, always building on things. So there's one bucket, I would say. And then the other bucket, I would say, is probably like the lucrative bucket, the money-making bucket. If you're young and you're like, I'm not really that bothered about being technical, but I do want to make money. Then obviously tech sales would be an area to look at. Definitely project management. In the UK, project managers eventually make quite a bit of money as well. I'm trying to think if there are any kind of other areas which are specifically like, oh, you're 100% going to have a good salary, but obviously sales is always the highest making in most industries anyway.
Yeah, true. That's true. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Even as I'm talking now, I have another question, but I
have 1 minute. If you have one more question, I can take it up to, we might take it up to 5 o'clock. It's fine.
So, someone said DevOps too, right? I think that's cloud-based too, so.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your opinion about Scrum Masters? And I mean, do you guys have Scrum Masters in the UK? I know you do, yeah, but like what's your take on it? Yeah.
So being honest, we do have Scrum Masters, but I've never actually worked with one. I'm too far
Okay.
away kind of the process in
That's
order for me to work with them. But I do know that they do exist. But this is where it gets very confusing with like Scrum Master, Program
project
Manager,
manager.
Project
Okay.
Manager, Product Manager. I start to see them. I'm like, which one is which one is for me? But I get confused. But it's definitely a role that we do have.
And then someone said business analyst. I think when we were talking about top tech rules, have you worked with any of those?
I haven't worked with them personally, but I do know some business analysts. It is a good role, and some people can make, if you're a contractor as a business
Yeah,
analyst, you
like
can make a
500
killing.
pounds. Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, like I was talking to someone the other day, they were making like 500 to
Wow,
£1,000 like a day. Like you can make a lot of money.
money.
So that's another route. Contracting
True.
into tech is another way for you
Yeah,
to start your
yeah,
career.
yeah, yeah. And I know quite a number of contractors that, And then what's your take on multiple roles? Because I hear some people have this philosophy like that's the reason why something related to laying off. I'm like, how does that follow, right? That
Mm.
people taking multiple roles and it kind of feel like at some point in time it was like the employer's world, but now it's back to it was like the employee, right? When
Yes,
people,
yeah.
yeah,
Now
now
it's
it's
back
back
to the
to
employer's market,
yeah,
but it'll swing the other way. It always does. Like it's just a pendulum. Like now we're like employers are this, but then once they've made all these investments and they need people to work on them, they will then start rehiring again, and then it will then go the other way. It's always going to be
yeah.
back and forth, back and forth. This.
Okay, okay. All right. Thank you so much. I really
No
appreciate it.
worries.
Yeah, and
Thank
I
you for
enjoyed the
having
conversation.
me. No, it's been fantastic. Yeah, if any other questions come up, let me know. If people want to do a repeat another time, happy to do so because we had lots of questions. So yeah,
All
we
right.
could.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate it. So I'll be saving this live on my YouTube channel. It's called Tips and Joy. It's also in the link in my bio, and I'll share on this page when I, have it posted there. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Thank
Thanks,
you. Yeah.
guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Soon. Bye.